Unregulated Leadership podcast. I'm honored to welcome Betchin Daniel, a World Bank scholar. With more than 20 years of experience bridging public service and the private sector, Betchin brings deep expertise in financial management and sustainable development. She began her career at the National Social Insurance Trust Fund, mastering public sector finance as an account officer, then expanded her skills as a leading stock brokerage firm. Currently, she serves at the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, driving investment for national growth. Beyond her professional roles, Betchin is a passionate gender advocate. In 2017, she founded the Lime to Lemonade Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness and educating communities about domestic violence and team dating. Join us as we explore her journey from navigating Nigeria's financial institution to championing social change, and learn how she's transforming challenges into opportunities for women and families across the nation.
So we are so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to get right into the questions, okay? So reflecting on your upbringing, how did early expectations around household chores and family roles influence how you've navigated your career and your personal life?
Okay, being the first child and then the first girl, I did a lot of, that gender role thing, being the one to do the cooking as well as the sweeping and all that. But then I had a good support from my dad. My dad was very supportive, of me, just ensuring that, education is priority in what I do and all that. So I wouldn't say I had that much pressure because when it comes to certain things, gender roles and all that, and if I can't do it because of work,
right,
my father will be there. Although my mom, because I think women are actually the ones who really kind of propagate the whole gender thing. Yeah, it is the woman because the mothers have grown to go through it, so they want their daughters to go through it as well.
Initiation.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a generational thing, from mother to mother to mother to, it goes on like that. I also am guilty of that. Sometimes I do that, but then, with awareness, with education and all that, trying to kind of like subside that to bring in my son to also be part of, other things so that it's not just my daughters who are subjected to do or being told to do a particular kind of things because, they are women. Although it's also important, given the kind of society that we live in, the expectation for a woman, if a woman can't cook, it's a problem in Nigeria. And
So what I hear you saying is not just the men that expect it, but the women and the mothers sometimes put the expectation on the girls.
On the girls.
Wow.
I think it comes more from the mothers than even the fathers. Yeah, in terms of gender norms.
Okay.
Yeah, and expectations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I can resonate. The idea of a woman's legacy beliefs centers around how well she grooms her daughters for marriage.
Yeah.
So if you go to your husband's house and you can't cook, then your mother has failed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she would do her best to make sure that you have those skills.
So do the mothers groom the daughters for marriage and not for work?
And the sons, how do we groom them to be husband? But I feel like that's
something else. Okay,
different conversation.
So one of the other things that I do want to talk about is this is my first time in Africa, Nigeria. And through these conversations, I'm learning a lot. And so a lot of times what is perceived is like the men are the ones saying to do these certain things, but really the mothers may be preparing the daughters for marriage and not for working. And so there's a combination of that. So that was fascinating to me because I was like, okay.
So continue with the questions. From your personal experience, what do you think the pressures that women face in the workplace are, particularly women who have careers and hold up a home versus the women who don't have that additional burden of pursuing their career and taking care of the home? How do you think their challenges differ?
Well, I think first and foremost, foundationally, women, the kind of society that we live in, first and foremost, are expected, to take care of the home front. Whether you're working or you're not working.
Yes.
Except when you have an understanding husband, which, if we're to rate it in terms of percentage, the
3%.
supportive would just be like, but I personally, I have 5 children. And then working. I gave birth to all my kids while working.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really challenging, because like when you have a meeting and then it's you're doing school runs, meaning that you take your child to school and then you pick up your child from school.
Okay.
And then you don't have a supportive husband, and then you have a meeting. The person will tell you to choose between your work and your children.
Right.
Yeah. So, those are the kind of things that affect women in terms of building their careers.
Right.
So women in Nigeria go through a lot, apart from that, the whole male ego thing. I don't know if the right word to use right now. And then, the supremacy, racial supremacy and all that. And there's also the issue of domestic violence, which also kind of like it's compounded for women in Nigeria, where a woman is supposed, because if you don't work, then how do you even take care of them? We have men who don't take care of the home front, and then the women will have to work to take care of their children too. And then we have men who don't even allow their women to work. Yeah, they want the women to be like full-time housewife. But although we have a few women who wants to be, like women, but in the case where you don't want to, you want to build a career, what do you do like when you're married and all that? So it's kind of like a very complex and challenging a kind of scenario for women in Nigeria.
So what I'm hearing is that for professional women, they are better off single professional women chasing their career.
No!
Listen, let me get to where I'm going. Let me get to it. Because then you don't have to choose. Because as a mother, if I have this really important stakeholders meeting at 1, and I can't get out of it, and my child needs to be picked up, I'm going to pick my child, right? Because I'm not going to leave my child at school. So how does that affect me in terms of climbing up in the organization? That single professional woman who doesn't have to make that decision has the room to grow where I'm held back. Do you see what I mean? So there's a lot of systems in place to put roadblocks in front of me as a mother in professional settings. How do you navigate that?
Yeah. So those are the barriers that women face in terms of, their careers. And their careers is linked to their livelihoods.
Yes.
Yeah. So without the career, even though the career gives you satisfaction, that you're fulfilling a purpose. But then when is also in addition to fulfilling a purpose, you also need the career for livelihood, sustainability and all that.
Professional identity.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when that happens, just like I said, it all depends on the kind of spouses. But then we have more, in terms of we have more men kind of being like an obstacle to the women. Like, for instance, I did a qualitative research on the impact of domestic violence on women's livelihoods. So, in some of the interviews, I had this subject who was educated to a certain level, wanted to go back to school, but wasn't allowed to go back to school. The man said his wife won't go back to school, won't further her education, and will not work. She said she got 2 appointments on different occasions to work with government, but the man refused. And then again, her family kind of put up money, because each time she asks her husband for money, he becomes furious.
Oh.
Yeah, like, so it's so complex. Yeah, you're like,
Make up your mind.
Why, what is it?
Wait, so he doesn't want you to work, but he also doesn't want you to ask for money?
Yeah, but that's
the norm?
Yeah. Not to everyone, to some. They are within the context of domestic violence or intimate partner violence now. So now she's at home. She can't work. She's not allowed to further her education. She was financially dependent on him, and then he was using that again, to control and then, perpetuate abuse on her. So one time she got family put up money for her to start a business. He came back and he destroyed the business. Then I had, there's also another subject which I interviewed, who was working, was a professional. But then somehow before she knew what was happening, she took up the whole burden of the family. So in her own situation, the husband's way of control was for him to be in charge of her income. So he wants to know how much she makes, how she spends the money. She can't spend the money without, his approval and all that. And then even to pay tuition in order to, and that's where what we call submission, like from the Bible, comes in. So within like the context of Nigeria, women will be like told to submit to your husband. Also, the submission includes submitting your income.
I have something to say. There's a saying that most men these days want a submissive provider. That's an oxymoron. That does not exist. You either want a submissive traditional woman, or you want a provider woman who contributes to the household. Yeah, that's interesting to hear.
So in her own case, she noticed when she gives her husband money for tuition that he doesn't pay, he doesn't pay. So she stopped giving him money. And then one time her child was sent back home from school because of, non-payment and tuition and all that. And she didn't have the money. But she had promised she was going to take a loan to pay the tuition, but she didn't. So he got furious when the child came back home, went to her workplace, asked her why she didn't pay the tuition. And she said, okay, she was making an arrangement to get a loan. So she was like, okay, but since I haven't got the loan, why don't you pay? That why don't you pay that she said. He just started beating her in her workplace. So that's where workplace, while workplace supposed presumed to be like the safest place for women, but then you see the escalation of abuse even to the place of work, which, of course, will affect her mental, right in front of her colleagues being beaten by her husband, and all that. But in her own case, she was financially independent. She was working.
So
that's the complex when it comes to, what women go through, in order to build career, and then they are mothers and they have children.
Wow. So from your perspective, it sounds like it is a cultural type thing that we need to like shift the mindset of not only the men, but also the women that are staying in these situations. Like you just mentioned, she was financially stable, but she still stayed. And so what do you think that we can do or bring awareness to or share that helps people find their voice and find their power and realize they don't have to stay in these situations and they can be stable and do? What are the things that we need to kind of bring awareness to shift that structure?
Okay, in terms of awareness, I think women are doing a lot. Advocates, women advocates, organizations, they're doing a lot to raise awareness. I think like 3-4 years ago, I worked with women rights advocacy program. I don't know if I got that right, but it's called RAPA.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was their chairman on the eliminating of raising and working with religious leaders, traditional religious leaders, to raise awareness in mosques, in churches, and also basically on religious organizations. So what we do, we go there, we talk with the leaders, we talk with the chiefs and all that. We also kind of like advocated for the inclusion of women in leadership position, because when a woman is going through something, and then there is no woman like in leadership to be able to advocate or say something on her behalf, is just the men. So, but how will the men understand the need of the woman and what the woman is going through, Yeah, so we advocated, and then we saw that happen. And then surprisingly, we actually did see that, for instance, like, particularly like the Muslim leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, within the Muslim leadership community, we see how some women. Like when we go to the mosque, we see women in leadership. But then for some churches we go to, I remember we went to this particular denomination, and it was just men, like over 100 men. Like it was so intimidating. Like, what are we going to say to this men? It was just the men. And so it's like that. But I mean, with teaching, it's just the correction of that submission. Like because men abuse the term submission. They think it's like a kind of punishment. Okay, the woman is my slave. She must do this. She has to be like this, do whatever I wanted. Like the case of the woman who was a professional, and the husband came to, beat her up in her workplace. Before then, they had a meeting because he told her that, you do not submit. I don't know what you do with your salary. So when they had a meeting, like a family meeting, the family was like, okay, for peace to reign, just tell him, just do this. So that happens. But based on the research I have done, I found out that it's actually mothers who encourage their daughters to stay for peace sake. And then because they have endured it, they want their daughters as well. So it kind of, like I said, it builds like generational endurance of what is not right. Yeah. And then another aspect of it is the institution. We have a very weak institution. And then the reporting system is not centralized. So you interview this person, the person might go to police station and probably meet a person that will address her issue. But then another woman might go to police station and meet another person who will tell her, what did you do that the man beat you?
Wow.
Women, you can talk too much. So it all depends. Another one might go to, what is it called? This Human Rights Commission and get support. Another person might go there and not get support. So, the weak system, So when the woman leaves, where's she going to go to? When you have children. And then because they understand who they're dealing with, it's difficult for women to leave their children behind. I've heard people say, the children will... why not save yourself first before the children? People have seen how they leave their children behind and things, it doesn't go well because the situation. So it's so difficult for women to leave. And, because there's no accountability, the way the system is. And until recently, where we had the VAP law, that's the Violence Against Person Prohibition Act.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it was passed into law, it was only heard in, like, if you have the cases, it was only in Abuja. Until, there was a lot of advocacy where states have taken up. Now, the law, if you have such cases, you can actually go to court. And then there was also the issue of some of those states that passed VAP law into... the bill into law do not have a family court like in Nigeria. No family court. So, but then when there's no family court, how do you hear the cases? So women don't go to report because when they go to an open court where everybody is seated and they have a way of silencing women, then they ask them those, very personal questions that... Don't even talk to your family. They ask about sexual, personal things. In open court where everybody is listening. So
now like humiliated.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's why when you see this National Demographic Health Survey, you see that like 50% of the survey that was carried out, women don't report. Even worldwide, 50% of women don't report. Why? Because of, ridicule, shame, how they shame women and blame women for what has happened or what is happening. Yeah.
So I'm listening to that and I'm hearing that domestic violence and this idea of control doesn't only affect the woman's physical, mental, emotional health. It also affects their financial earning potential. And it's very much systemic and structural and the road to help or to getting these things resolved is not that easy. And I also know that thinking about all this led you to start Lime to Lemonade in 2017.
Yeah.
Can you share with us how your personal journey has also influenced the mission and the vision of the organization?
Well, I founded the organization based on my own personal experience on domestic intimate partner violence. And because like I went to the police station, I know like the response I got. And then the feeder stood by me, they gave me the support. But then it comes to a certain stage where feeder can't do anything. And then in my own case, I had to leave. I was living in Abuja, so I had to leave Abuja in order to stay safe. So I had to leave Abuja. I mean, leaving Abuja meaning that I had to leave my work. I didn't even resign. So I had to leave my work, and all that. So called, taking like a month leave. So, and then eventually I told them I wasn't coming back. So I went and I lived without a job for months, and then I had children to take care of. So because I understood, like I've been through and I've experienced like the failure of the institutions we have. So what will the woman do? I mean, in situations like that where there is no, people don't know that, the failure of the system actually promotes domestic violence. So leaving my job meaning that I have to leave my livelihood.
Wow.
Yeah, so it takes for a lot of women, when they think about that, I can't leave. If I leave my job, even though they live in a very precarious or very horrible situation, dangerous situations, but then somehow, they just stay, So it was based on that. I started with first with a platform on Facebook, and where I raise awareness, and all that. And I also share my stories, and I had people all over. I mean, even outside of Nigeria who were part of that group coming to share their own stories as well. Yeah. So, but then we also had issue of for women who had left and didn't have a job.
Yeah.
So like when I started it, I had people who I say, okay, they will support, like give some women support. So when women needed job, and then I'll contact those people, then there was no job. And then they need some clothes, there was no clothes, and all that. So I was kind of like discouraged. And then I now started the nonprofit itself, from then on. And then, so what we've been doing is go to communities, work with the leaders, and also we raise awareness in secondary school, because to do that you also need to start from
early,
from the ground up, because young people also who witness domestic violence may grow up to think that it is okay, and may also grow up to be very defensive, in relationship, because my mother took this, I'm not going to take that, even if they meet like the right person, but because of the experience of their parents, they might self-sabotage even their own relationships. So we started going to secondary school. Then we showed them movies of teen dating violence, and also show them movies of older people who have gone through it, and all that. So
yeah, it sounds. Have you heard the saying, "Turning your pain into purpose"?
Into purpose,
yes. That is exactly what you have done, and I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
How do you measure your impact on whether it's the children or the adults? How do you measure the success of what you're doing?
Okay, so what we do before we start, like for secondary school, before we start the whatever we'll do, once we're there, we administer questionnaire. So we have questions that we ask, whether they know about domestic violence, all those kind of questions, so they answer. Then after the program, we administer another questionnaire. So so that's how we
So you collecting data.
Yeah.
I love it. So, looking at your organization, Projection for Growth, how do you see it advancing the next 5 years in terms of both the services that you provide and geographical reach?
Okay, I think I had a wide reach, before now, when I was on Facebook, and then for most of the programs I've been doing, it was because of the passion that I had, to contribute to the ending of domestic violence in Nigeria. Been mainly from my pocket, personally funding, and then having some few friends and family also support me. So I've not been able to get funding. So when I get funding, like I have things that I really want to do. So, but there's no funding to do that. Yeah, because because to even do that, you need to get like the media, you need to get the cameras, you get all those things, you know. So, and then you need to also entertain the students because they're young, and all that. So you show movies, you know, and all that, and then you do the talking, you know, which they love. And all that. So we're with funding we will do it because we have programs lined up like for the research that I did. So I want to kind of see how I can either do like maybe some movies out of that in order to show you know how. Because I am the research is actually focused on livelihoods, which is something that people haven't really looked at.
The financial implications.
Yeah, the financial implication, and then again, like one of the findings is that from the subject that I interviewed, one had was in a relationship or married to somebody who had bipolar. So, but you know, in this part of the country, we really don't see mental illness as, I mean, it's not even talked about. As in, so mental illness is not even an issue that is being discussed, that is taken seriously here. So a woman can even be married to somebody who is bipolar. And now think that, okay, it's his behavior, not knowing that
he needs help.
He needs help.
And he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that. No. He doesn't know that.
I remember when somebody told me one time, there's no mental health issues in Nigeria. That's not, it's not a thing. And it's like, oh, tell me more. But as we close, what is one thing that you would want our listeners to know about balancing their family with their careers and still being able to thrive in both spaces?
Well, it's all about determination. That's just the truth. Like I said, I've been a single parent with how many children? So it's all about determination on what you want to do. You know, if you need to further your education, you go ahead and further your education. You know, because you need to develop yourself. You need to improve on what you have. You can't want to build a career and be in the same place. Although it also depends on the kind of job that you have. So you can balance that with time management and also putting in your passion. Just have a vision on what you want.
I love that. So one of the other questions that we like to ask, this podcast is called Unregulated Leadership. And some of the characteristics are disruptive and self-aware and authentic. What would you say makes you an unregulated leader?
Okay, so I look at, I don't know, based on my own understanding of unregulated leadership. I just feel like where leadership is not regulated, that there will be a lot of chaos. Maybe coming from my experience from public service, you know, of course, there's that complex interplay of both regulated and unregulated somehow. Since, I mean, if there's no rule of law, or there's rule of law, but then the rule of law is not obeyed when there's a court judgment, you know, and all that. So then it becomes unregulated. So you can see unregulated can surface in a place where there is regulated leadership. So, but I would say, in my experience, maybe my NGO, the non-profit, because it is not, it's basically the people who I have are volunteers. So, I mean, there is a limit to what you can tell them to do, you know, since they are not paid, you know, so there's no, so you can do that. Like I've also volunteered with an organization for over 15 years. So I've been in different leadership roles. So by the end of the day, you know, as volunteers, it all depends on if you have the vision and you believe that you will be committed. You know, so, but some don't believe in that. So I don't want to see that as a little bit of being unregulated leadership, being in like volunteering when it comes to Nigeria. I know outside of Nigeria, people believe in volunteerism and then, you know, they keep by the rules or, you know, that guides the organization. But it's different here.
In a sense, I would say that starting this organization and going to disrupt the status quo of how things are. a part of unregulated leadership because you have a passion and you're going for it, right? To disrupt how things are.
We're not checking boxes, right? We're doing it because it's right.
Because
people
it's right.
volunteer because they believe in the mission of that organization.
Exactly,
And so you're not just doing things for show. You're doing it because you really care about it.
Because you care about it.
And so that's where that unregulated is. It's like, I'm not doing it to check a box. I'm doing it because it's purposeful and it has impacted me. And so, yes,
so that's how we disrupt.
That's how we disrupt. Yes.
So thank you for joining us.
Yes,
your story has been very inspirational, and sitting in front of someone who has gone through it and sharing your roadmaps for how you navigated all the challenges and still bounced back, still managing family life and professional life, and even went on to find a non-governmental organization that centers around issues of domestic violence against women and advocating about that. So thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you.
That has been insightful. We have a pledge here that we do at the end of every episode, and it goes something like this. I pledge to be an unregulated leader.
To be an unregulated leader.
And to always disrupt the status quo.
And to always disrupt the status quo. Thank you. We listen, we got to tell people what unregulated leadership is. So thank you so much. And we invite you all to join us next time for more interviews, and we get you some more exciting stories so that you can be empowered as you move forward as an unregulated leader. Please like, share, follow on all our social media platforms, and also tell us a little bit about your story. What makes you an unregulated leader? We might feature you on one of our future episodes. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.